What is going on YouTube? Van here. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this week's video. This week I'm joined with my good friend Drew.
Hello.
Drew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Drew and I've had the pleasure of knowing Vandolph for about 15 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
Secondary school.
Secondary school. And the reason why we've decided to film this video today is because Drew identifies himself as an agnostic atheist, and obviously, as you guys know, I'm a Christian, and so we thought it'd be really nice to create this space to have some real authentic conversations about faith and atheism and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of the time people are really afraid and uncertain and anxious about having these conversations. So one of the main reasons for making this video is I think it would be really great to start opening those channels of conversations between people who have different views. So today we have these cards, each of them has a question on it, and we are going to be answering the questions in the cards and having conversation and discussions about each one. So without further ado, let's begin.
Okay, so the first question I have here is, what does faith mean to you?
I think for me, faith is definitely a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of choosing to see beyond what's physically in front of you. I think whatever you choose to believe in requires a degree of faith, doesn't it? Whether you're agnostic or atheist or Christian or Buddhist or Muslim. And I think ultimately for me, faith is a key that opens the door to communion with God, and it opens the door to live a life that isn't inward looking, that isn't self-centered, but is actually centered on something else apart from myself. How about you?
So I think that faith is when you believe in something and you don't have any doubts about it whatsoever, which is a trait that I find quite admirable, and it would be something that I would love to have. I think that believing in something without any doubt is an incredible thing to be able to do, but I don't think that it's an easy thing.
So do you think as though your perspective as an agnostic atheist, do you think that requires less faith or more faith than other perspectives, other viewpoints? Or?
No, I think that believing in a religion requires the most faith. I think that having that level of faith as someone like yourself has is something that is admirable, but also something that I don't think is realistic for me to be able to obtain just from my mindset in general. I think we've had a lot of chats about it before, and a lot of time when it comes down to this specific sort of question, we always keep going round and round, and I think it both centres on our minds are programmed in different ways, and we're both quite firmly set in our own individual beliefs. That although we agree with each other's faiths, although I wouldn't necessarily call them mine a faith, it's still a strong thing to have. It's a strong trait to be able to achieve. So what do you think it is about culture or upbringing or the way that we've been programmed to think, or the kind of things that have been instilled in us that makes it difficult to see or understand another's perspective? Is it culture? Is it like how you've been raised? Is it... I don't think it's necessarily much to do with how you're raised, because my parents, my family in general, are Christian. Even from quite a young age, I never quite bought into it. So I went to a Church of England school, but I've never quite believed in it. Whereas I know there's a lot of families, similar sort of upbringing to me, that are the polar opposite. I don't think I had that mindset from the beginning, even when I was a kid, to think that this is something that I can believe in. And at points I wanted to, but if you don't fully 100% believe that this is what happened, or you don't believe that all the events happened, you can't force yourself into believing it.
So what, from your perspective, do you think governs morality, governs good or bad, or gives definition to those things?
I think a lot of it is common sense. I think people inherently know that things like stealing is not a good thing to do.
Right. And
I don't think you need necessarily to take guidance from a book or whatever it is, if it's from the Bible or if it's from the Quran or whatever. I don't think that I needed religion to distinguish for me what was right and wrong.
Question number 2. What does the church do well or badly? What does the modern day Christian church, you think, what are the merits of it, and then what does it also do quite badly?
Okay, yeah. So I think from what I've already said, it makes me sound like I think that religion is an inherently bad thing, and I don't. I think that it's got a lot of advantages to it. And I think one of the things that churches do quite well is they build communities and a sense of togetherness. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I think that also comes from various other things, because I think that sense of community is brought together by people having a shared belief.
Yes.
But to me, and I don't want to downplay it at all, it's no different. It's just it's obviously a lot more wide scale, but it's no different to having an interest in a hobby and
then building community around, the hobby.
It's from having a shared belief or mindset, and that's but it does a very good job of doing that, and you see a lot of amazing things happening from that.
And I think we can even see that in our own friendship, where, you know, what are the things that connect us? Communities, badminton and Lord of the Rings, basically, and a few other things.
When you break it down, it's pretty basic.
Yeah. So you can build communities in many different ways. Yeah. But you think that the church does that very well?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Cool. And you know, I can only affirm that. I can only kind of agree with what you're saying, because, as I said earlier, the question regarding faith is a way or a path of kind of looking outside of yourself. And then when you're with a community of people who are doing the exact same thing, who are trying their very best to look outwardly rather than inwardly, then it creates and fosters a really authentic sense of community. How about badly? What do you think the church does badly?
I think, in my opinion, I don't consider it to be the most progressive movement. I think there's a lot of beliefs instilled in the group that are dated, that need to be even just evaluated. It's very sort of set in stone, and I think everything needs to be. I think any group needs to be open-minded and be able to evolve, essentially, for lack of a better word.
I don't disagree with you. I think the church in so many ways has upheld rituals and upheld traditions so far above the actual essence and the base of what the Bible is teaching. And you know, a lot of the time the church wants to move away or kind of secludes itself from culture, but actually it's culture that the church needs to reach.
Yeah, and I think if you just look at what's changed in even the past 100 years, it's a massive advancement culturally and technologically that things need to move with it.
Or they die. Definitely. Cool.
So what do you think the church does well?
I think you mentioned it earlier. I think one of the things that the church does really well is building communities. I know it's not very often that you walk into a place where you see a collective of people from different demographics, different backgrounds, different financial situations, different cultures. And I think in a lot of ways the church does a great job, I mean in my experience especially, of making you a global citizen and helping you to see perspectives not just from your own path, from your own culture, from your own background, but also from the backgrounds of different people.
So how do you find that the different sort of denominations of Christianity, how do they interact with each other?
For me, with denominations, I think the thing that unites us, which is the saving grace of God, the work of Jesus Christ, the power of the Holy Spirit through the church, is always going to be greater than the thing that divides us.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people kind of put so much emphasis on those kind of not insignificant but less significant things that divide us, that they lose sight of the things that actually do kind of keep the people of God together. But I think, you know, denominations have a lot to learn from each other. I think there are some things that some denominations do really well and others don't.
Yeah.
And there are some things that, you know, we might do well but other people might not. So I think when it comes to an authentic body of believers, authentic body of Christ, I think there are people who truly believe, who truly are in the essence of the word Christian, following
Yeah.
Jesus in every kind of denomination.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
What do you think the church does badly then?
I think because I care so much about the church, I'm always more of a critic.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
I'm always more critical of the church because I always want it to do better.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I actually want to share two things that I think, in a very realistic sense, the church doesn't do very well. One is authenticity. I think
Okay. I mean,
that
sorry.
surprises you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna let you talk because I'm
All right.
intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Cool. I think a lot of the time, you know, people when they go to church, they have this kind of mentality, or they have this way of thinking that, like, oh, I have to show my best self.
Yeah.
I have to, you know, I have to put on a mask almost. And I think, you know, the Bible talks. There's nothing in the Bible about anything like that. You know, a church is to be a place to come together and be authentic.
Yeah.
You know, to be real, to share your celebrations and to share your sadness as well, to share your experiences.
I think that's easier said than done for a lot of people, though.
I think so, but I think it's the ideal that we need to all strive towards.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think we need to remember that the church isn't a museum to show off your best qualities, but church is a hospital where everyone knows that they need help and they need God, basically.
Right.
And secondly, one thing that I think the church doesn't do very well at the moment is, one, again, we spoke about it earlier, sometimes the traditions and the rituals kind of get upheld so highly that actually we lose sight of the essence and the basics of what it means to be a follower of Christ. When Jesus himself was asked what was the greatest commandment, he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the Christian faith is built on agape, which is like selfless love.
Right.
That agape is the Greek word. And I think if we just strive to go back to that basics of loving God and loving other people, I think we would be able to be much more effective in reaching the culture and the communities around us.
So this one is, if you could ask God one question, what would it be?
I think for me, if I could ask God one question, it would have to be, what do you want me to do? Because I think as a Christian, and the more you grow in faith and the more you grow in this relationship with God, you understand your purpose, which is to love God, love people, and show the light of God to others. That is your purpose. But I think what I struggle with sometimes is, how does God want me to do that? Everyone's path is different, everyone's walk is different, everyone's experience is different, everyone has different skill sets. You know? So God doesn't want everyone to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone is going to be X, Y, or Z.
No.
But I think my greatest question to God would be, what is it? Or like, show me the steps to take to be where you want me to be. Because a lot of the time, things are uncertain, you know, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
No.
So direction is what I would ask God for, like
Okay.
physical direction.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I think what my question would be, and I know it's been asked thousands of times before, would be the question for a lot of people, is why do some of the events that happened, if it's all part of God's will, why do they happen to certain people or have done nothing to deserve this?
Right. So why do good things happen to bad people?
Yeah, kind of. Or just
No,
like,
what? No. Sorry. So why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the obvious ones would be like natural disasters. Okay, so I think if they are part of God's plan, it's something that puts me off it quite a lot.
It's a stumbling block.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think, you know, we could go into hours and hours of discussion on this topic, but if you don't mind, I'll just share with you a couple of thoughts that helps me to kind of process this question. I think the first thing I always consider and I always think about when people ask about questions of suffering, like why do bad things happen to good people and stuff, is that I agree. You know,
Right, yeah.
Being a Christian doesn't mean that I don't then see the injustices, that I'm blind to the injustices of the world and the unfairness of the whole world. And I think whether you're a Christian, whether you're atheist, whether you're, Muslim, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Hindu, I think it is a question, it's an existential question, it's a human question.
Yeah, definitely.
And you said that it was like a stumbling block for you, but actually for me, it's an answer, my faith almost, to why such suffering happens in the world. Because the Bible is explicit when it talks about how sin, this kind of like cancerous evil force, has infected the whole of creation when humanity chose to sin, basically. That's not to say it's not unfair, that's not to say it's not unjust, but that's because sin is unfair and sin is unjust. And the very essence of sin is unrighteousness and evil. And so, yes, injustice exists, but there's a reason behind the injustice, there's a reason behind the suffering. So how, like from a humanistic, from an atheistic, kind of agnostic point of view, how do you deal with it, like the realities of the world?
That's a good question. I do think that Christianity and religion in general is a really good way of attempting to answer questions. They give answers for them, but I don't believe in them, like I said earlier, and I can't get behind them. I can't believe in those answers. From my point of view, it's not easy with things like the afterlife. I don't believe there is an afterlife. Yeah, so it is a scary thought, and I think that if religion can provide people comfort, then there's no problem with that. I have no issue with that. I guess it's something that I don't generally think about a lot in my life.
Unless you're in a YouTube video.
Unless I'm in a YouTube video asked a question almost specifically about it. But it's something that I know it will happen at some point. That is life. When I was younger, I used to think about it a lot more weirdly, but I've kind of...
You were a deep child.
Yeah, I was a very philosophical child. No, I kind of just come to...
Accept?
Yeah, that's a good word. I've kind of come to accept it, and that, in a weird way, almost makes me considerably less concerned about it. But it's a scary
terrifying emotion.
I think there's no way of looking at it where it isn't.
What, if anything, would change your beliefs?
Being an agnostic, I'm quite open to religion, but I think it would need to be something. This is coming from obviously my atheist point of view, but something provable,
right?
Or something that
tangible.
I can witness, and I think it would need to be something tangible, some event that happened or something to either myself or something that I've witnessed, that would give me no doubts in what I've just seen or what's just happened. I don't think in my life so far anything has come that's made me believe in
something,
any reason for there to be something,
right.
Whatever that may be.
What I find the difficulty is with that is that yes, if something amazing and miraculous was to happen, you would believe in a creative force. But that doesn't necessarily then encourage you or lead you to believe that this force is all-powerful, that this force is good, that this force is, wants the best for you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I expect God to come down on a big
cloud
and just be like, this is what's happening.
Right.
Even if it was just some sort of thing that would be deemed a miracle, then it wouldn't necessarily guide me towards specifically Christianity, but it would guide me towards some sort of faith or belief.
Right. And it's interesting because our first question was faith, and that's the hard thing with faith, isn't it? That human intrinsic desire to prove something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just what humans are. We have a desire to know what's going on.
Inquisitive by nature.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think if something like that happened, the first thing that would be done is to see how has it happened, what has happened,
right,
and how do we explain it? Because we we like to know answers.
Well, that's how we've gotten to where we are, isn't
exactly,
it?
Yeah.
Humans have observed phenomena and then have come up with theories and ideas to kind of explain what they are observing.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you would be, because I know when we were younger, you were still a Christian, but you weren't as devout, I guess, as you are now. Was there something that happened that caused you to?
I think I wouldn't even call myself a Christian when we were younger. I think because the essence of what Christianity means is that it is a follower of Christ.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's the definition of Christianity. And when we were younger, I wouldn't classify myself as a follower of Christ. What I would do is I would classify myself as an Adventist, because I grew up in an Adventist home, and my family and friends, a lot of them were Adventists. So whilst I was always an Adventist, I wouldn't say I was always a Christian.
Right.
And for me, really, growing up, I never put too much thought into it, because it was almost inherited. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was
ingrained in your society, I guess.
And in my community, in my society, I grew up almost indoctrinated with that ideology.
Right.
But then there came a point late in my teens where actually, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, if I believe this, then this is asking for all of me.
Right.
And if I don't believe this, then why waste my time in doing the things that are expected?
I feel like that's a similar thing.
Of you.
A similar path where we both went different ways. Okay, yeah. Because
I mean, I think a lot of the time Christianity is kind of watered down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people kind of develop a culture of Christianity, but not actually Christianity itself.
Yeah.
And so I came to realize that actually this is asking for all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
And then it was at that time when I came to God in prayer and I said, look, I'm not sure if you exist. I don't really know what I believe in. I don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
You know. But if you're real, come and meet me. I want to meet you. I want to share in this relationship with you that everyone seems to be talking about and all that kind of stuff. And and it wasn't like this amazing, the heavens opened wide and then light shone from the heaven thing, but it was this consistent choice of stepping out in faith, one little step at a time, and every time that I stepped out in faith, God would always be there to meet me and to kind of to show Himself, if that makes sense. And it's a difficult concept. It is a difficult concept, especially as you were saying, we're so intrinsically, we want to know, we want things to be explained. But in answer to this question, what, if anything, would change your beliefs? I think nothing big would change my belief. Like, if something horrible happened, what I find is that every time something big and difficult happens, it always brings us closer.
Right.
It brings me closer anyway, and it helps me to grow in my relationship with God. But what can sometimes distance me from God are little compromises, if you know what I mean.
Not really.
So, as with any relationships, a relationship with God requires attention and time and investment. But sometimes when it comes to like distractions, procrastination, work, and all the other responsibilities, sometimes you kind of compromise that time. You compromise the time that you spend with God. You compromise the time you spend in prayer.
Right.
And I think it's those things sometimes that kind of distance me from God, when I put other things and I put other priorities above God, when I know, I understand, and I believe that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anything would ever change, I don't think so. And I've prayed this prayer a few times before, where I'm like, Lord, if there ever comes a time that I would stop believing, or that I wouldn't be in this communion with you, just kill me now. Literally, I've actually prayed that prayer a few times. But yeah. There you go. That's an answer to the question.
Right. Okay. Christ, that went deep. So this one is, how do my beliefs affect our friendship?
How does my belief affect our friendship?
That's an interesting question.
Deep question. I think it's a good question to end on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
How does my belief affect our friendship? Okay, I think, as we said again earlier, the foundations of our friendship aren't really our beliefs.
No.
The foundations of our friendship is like found in other things. So in a lot of ways, it doesn't affect our.
No, I think it has an impact on our friendship.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But in a way, I actually think it's a positive impact.
Always.
We're always willing to have open discussions,
Conversations.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think that is a good thing. No, I don't think we'd be friends if it wasn't.
Right.
If both of us weren't open to the other person's viewpoint.
And I think because when we first became friends, neither of us really had strong views about anything.
No, to be fair, I don't think I have strong views now.
But as we, for me especially, my faith and my belief and my relationship with God grew along with us, and I think we've spoken about it before, where it was quite tricky to begin with, to kind of rebalance our friendship.
Well, it was a massive change.
Yeah. And then to find the balance despite of all the changes and everything. But I think we've done, we've always found that balance. I think for me, this affects me specifically because as part of being a Christian, my desire is for everyone to kind of experience and see God the way that I experience and see God. And so I want you to experience and see God the way I do. So that kind of does affect our friendship in some ways. In the back of my mind, there's always that desire to kind of, because for me, from my perspective and from how I've experienced faith in Christianity, it's like I found treasure. Yeah. And always I want to share that treasure with others. So I think that always has a bit of an impact, and it's always in the back of my mind when we're eating or when we're out and we're doing something.
I think one of the things that I find difficult, and it doesn't exactly come up much, but would be, if I was to ask you the question, the way I'm living at the moment is that in the eyes of God, I guess, I would not be going to heaven, I would be going to hell, I guess. I think it's probably tougher for you because it doesn't affect me, because obviously I don't believe in heaven and hell, but from your point of view, if you think that I'm going to hell or wherever it may be, that can't be easy. It can't. It can't. It's difficult, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it is difficult, and as I say, the desire to kind of introduce not only you but everyone, in my community, to the goodness of God is always in the back of my mind. But I think what's more important to me than where you're gonna end up is for you to actually know and see and perceive God as He is.
Okay.
I think more about that than is he gonna go here or is he gonna go there kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay.
And I think that brings us to the end of our video. That was cool.
It was emotional.
That was awesome. I loved it. Any last things you want to say before we finish?
I don't think so. I think that wrapped it up quite well. There were some good questions. Well done.
Thank you.
I think it was good to just be able to talk about some of these questions, which were a lot deeper than I thought they were going to be. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I think, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a lot of it is about opening up communication, isn't it? It's all about creating a space to talk honestly and authentically together. And I enjoyed it. It's been awesome. As you said earlier, we've covered kind of a lot of these questions in previous discussions and conversations and stuff. But it's really been cool to kind of talk about all this today.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have any questions or if you have any... Oh my days, dude! Guys, thank you so much for joining us in this week's video. If you have any more questions, if you have any other topics that you want us to cover, do please leave a comment in the comments section below. Drew, thank you so much for joining me in this week's video.
No problem, it was good fun.
It was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about it.
Yeah, and I pray that this has been a blessing for you guys and maybe led you to ask some questions yourself. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great week. Peace out.